You, your brother, and father have worked so hard to build the Hers brand, and this interview will be viewed by business students throughout the region.
Yeah.
What has been your greatest motivation and inspiration to constantly come up with new, innovative product ideas from year to year, season to season, to provide snack food products that are considered the best in the country?
Yeah, thank you. It's a good question because in our industry, new products are very important. Innovation is very, very important. I have been known to call it snackertainment sometimes. So if you think about our products are very tasty, very entertaining, it's also something to do. So people eat our products for a reward, for an accompaniment to a sandwich, for an accompaniment to a game that's on television or a movie. But basically, people that buy our products want to be entertained. Like they want an experience, you know. So just like anything else, you know, whether it's going out to dinner or something, you want to try something different. At least most people do. So we have to we have to keep coming up with new products. So that whole process in our company is something that we're all very involved in. My brother and I still sit in on R&D meetings and R&D synergy meetings with manufacturing and marketing and sales, and try to come up with ideas. We go to taste test and we become part of that. And then we have a great R&D team that's 7 or 8 people. That's all they do is work with our equipment, trying to come up with new ways of making products. And then we have great seasoning suppliers, partners in the business that make the barbecue and the sour cream and all, and they're constantly working on new flavors that they want to bring in and show us. And sometimes we give them direction and we say, hey, we want some ghost pepper flavored chips, or we want you to do a honey butter or something like that. And so we can use their innovation team to partner with our team to come up with new products. But it's one of our top 3 initiatives in our company.
Hi, I'm Kieran Warren, and I'm speaking with Tom Maggot, First Vice President at Merrill Lynch. Tom is also recognized as one of the top wealth management advisors within his company. Tom, please explain to us about your early career. How did you become a wealth management advisor?
Hi, Kieran. Yes, I've been with Merrill Lynch since 1978, but I was first licensed in the brokerage industry in 1970. And throughout the years, I actually had a sort of a passion for this business. And I started in the early years of 1978, a long time ago, over almost 37 years ago. And I worked my way through the knowledge and so on, and the building up of many, many clients, and literally hundreds of millions of dollars I manage. And it took a long time, and I put my clients as the first focus, and their growth and their goals and so on. And so that is how I became a wealth management advisor.
How has the profession changed over the course of your very successful career?
Well, in the beginning, a wealth management advisor was called a customer's man in the 50s, and then became a financial advisor, and then became a wealth management advisor. The industry has changed dramatically. Merrill Lynch in the early years was considered a competitor not of the other conventional brokerage firms, but rather we considered our primary competition Citibank. So up until 2001, there was a gradual decline in what's called the Glass-Steagall Act, which separated the investment banks from the commercial banks. And in the course of that development, as the commercial banks and investment banks, after the Great Depression, their functions were separated, and they were brought back together with the decline of the Glass-Steagall Act. So Merrill Lynch invented in the late 70s something called the cash management account, which actually allowed the investment banks now to do check writing, time deposits in the form of money market funds, investments, mutual funds, and so on, which brought them closer together, back together, as they were before 1929 with the commercial banks and the insurance companies.
Here at the headquarters of SEPTA in Center City to speak with Susan Van Buren, the Assistant General Manager of Human Resources, to speak about her career and how she manages dedicated employees of our regional mass transit system. Join me for this conversation. Susan, please tell me about your impressive career at SEPTA.
Well, I started with SEPTA 13 years ago as the Assistant General Manager of Human Resources. In that position, I'm responsible for 9,200 employees. I have a staff of 159 employees for all of SEPTA. I've been in the human resources field for a little over 30 years now, so I have a wealth of knowledge and experience. I am a generalist in that field by trade.
Wow, what are some of your challenges of working with such a large staff?
Well, we have many, but one of the top challenges that we have is communicating with our employees. As I mentioned earlier to you, Natalia, we have 9,200 employees at SEPTA, and they are spread out all over the 5-county area. So one of our greatest challenges is trying to communicate SEPTA programs and information with our employees.
I'm speaking with Gerald Shreiber, who is the President and CEO of J&J Snack Foods. Thank you so much for speaking with us today. I'd like to begin with you explaining how this all began. Can you take us through a journey from the very beginning of J&J Snack Foods to where the company is today?
Well, I can, and to describe it, if I might, it's like a fairy tale. It's like literally a business fairy tale. Poor Jewish kid from the wrong side of the tracks gets married early, has to get a job in metalworking, which I did, and I had a couple of close mentors at the time, people named Fred Kulik and Al Safa from Kulik and Safa Manufacturing Company, which made semiconductor machines. And I was able to rise through the ranks. Then ultimately I went on my own. I opened up my own metalworking shop. That lasted a couple of years when I got what I thought at the time was a lucrative buyout from a New York Stock Exchange company. I sold the company, even though I physically sold it and was supposed to stay employed by them for 5 years. They fired me within a year because even though I had sold out physically, mentally I had not made that adjustment. And in short order, within a month or two, I was looking for another opportunity, and I stumbled onto a small, bankrupt soft pretzel company. It had 8 employees, some very old baking equipment, and $400,000 in sales. But there was like a magnet that kept pulling me to it. And ultimately, I went into a court proceeding, a bankruptcy court proceeding, and believe it or not, I raised my hand, and I was the successful bidder. I paid all of $72,100 for the company. Thus began my odyssey into the soft pretzel business, which later grew to a lot of other products, some of them right here that we're talking about today.
Hi, my name is Alexa Manzo, and today I'm at the Wells Fargo Center with my guest, Ike Richmond, who is the Vice President of Public Relations for Comcast Spectacor. Good morning, Ike. Thanks for being part of our series.
Proud to be here.
Awesome. So we're going to get started with our first question. Our first question is just tell me a little bit about what you do and how did you get to this position?
I handle public relations for Comcast Spectacor. And Comcast Spectacor consists of 3 businesses: the Philadelphia Flyers, the Wells Fargo Center, and Spectra. So let's start in reverse order. Spectra is 3 divisions. Spectra consists of venue management, food services and hospitality, and ticketing and fan engagement. And those 3 divisions can be applied to arenas, stadiums, convention centers throughout the world. We have over 300 combined clients at 400 properties, doing our services to millions of people around the world. The Wells Fargo Center is the 21,000-seat arena in which we're standing right now. And we host over 275 events each year.
Wow.
And the Philadelphia Flyers of the National Hockey League is our team that plays here in Philadelphia and has been around for almost 50 years and won the Stanley Cup twice in 1974 and 1975.
Looking at my next question, just give me a little insight on a typical work day that you have in the office.
In public relations, there's two approaches you could take. You could be proactive, and you could be reactive.
Okay.
So every day before I leave the office, I list the 3 things that I want to accomplish tomorrow.
Wow. Okay.
Because when I come in, something may have happened overnight that now I have to become reactionary,
Okay.
or I have to react to it. So when I walk into my office, priorities 1, 2, and 3 are my proactive things for the day. But I walk in and we have breaking news. So number 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 3, 3 becomes 4,
Right.
and this new one becomes number 1. So you start working on number 1, and guess what? It may take you all day.
Right.
So 2, 3, and 4 become 1, 2, and 3 tomorrow. So a typical day is really hard to tell anybody what a typical day in public relations can be like.
Well, motivation, I suppose at the beginning when I first came to America was, I'm embarrassed to say I didn't have any money. You know, I mean, we had a very nice life in South Africa, but $1,200 and a wife and 2 children, young children, doesn't do it. And so I was definitely motivated by wanting more. I've subsequently, it's easy, I mean, sometimes wealthy or successful people, it's easy for them to say, but at the beginning, believe me, I was down and out, and that's a serious motivation. But sometimes when you think of making money, you become narrow, and you have to expand your mind. You have to think the big picture, and which will translate into the little pictures, and you know, it's the old dollar by dollar, but just on a big picture scale. So that was the main motivation, and going along as things built up, I had other motivations. It was pleasing and teaching young people. That to me is an enormous motive, still to this day. Being able to give to charity or work with charities is a great motivation for me.
Relationships.
Absolutely. And employing people is an enormous motivation to me. I mean, at this stage of my life, at 65, being reasonably successful, we'll discuss what success means in my eyes. It's not necessarily the money. My main motivation is to employ people. We have about 300 working in the summer, in the winter about 40 or 50, to give them new lives. If they come from another country, to me that's the greatest satisfaction. To see happy faces of young people is thing. To give to charity and see what good it does, it's a big motivation of mine. So these are different motivations. Certainly my priorities changed since 1977. I had no choice.
Hi, my name is Alexa Manzo, and today I'm at Center City Soft Pretzel Company with my guest, Tony Tonelli. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning.
Thank you for being part of the series.
Thank you.
So our first question for you today is just tell me about the beginnings of Center City Soft Pretzel Company and how the business began and how it developed over the past 34 years.
Okay. Before I got into this, I had started up my own oil heating service company, and was also involved in politics for a while, and I had gotten my dad a job working for license and inspection, and he became the head of the vendor detail, all the hot dog carts and stores in Center City and everything like that, which turned out to be very beneficial because by becoming friends with all of them, he started to learn about what they were doing and how they did it, and there was only one major pretzel company around at the time, and that was a company called Federal Pretzel. They were around for, 80 years. And I guess from being the only pretzel company in town, that also came with, they kind of told you what to do. You
Right.
didn't tell them what to do. And the vendors were very upset about that over the years. And my dad brought that back to me and thought about it, and got a couple of friends, and we talked about it, and started looking into what it would take to open up one of these things. And it took quite a while. We never seen a pretzel made before in our life. So, you know, we're out there asking people, what kind of equipment do you buy? What do you do? And to make a long story short, we found out, brought the equipment in, hooked it all up, and that first pretzel that dropped off that belt was the first time we ever seen a pretzel made in our life, you know. And then it kind of took off from there, and I had two partners for 22 years, and then I bought them out, and it's been me and my family ever since.
That's great.
But the retail end was just basically because we were here. We were just in a good spot, and a lot of traffic, and people tried it, they liked it, and word spread. And our retail people, I mean, they change from time to time, but for the most part, our retail people have been coming here for years.
Wow.
Years. We know them like they're like family,
Right.
you know. So, but as far as wholesale goes, wholesale was something that, you know, you more or less were thrown into it. You had to get into it because our competitor, Federal Pretzel, they served everybody.
Right.
Everybody, and I mean everybody.
Okay.
So if you wanted to make it in this business, you were going to have to compete with them.
Right.
And there was many pretzel companies that tried to compete with them. They didn't last months. Federal would just step on them like a roach, you know. So sat down and thought about that for a while and said, you know, everybody who kind of tried to go and compete with Federal tried to make something different than Federal. Federal made a good product. So when I sat there and I thought about it, and I said, you know, wait a minute, you know, why is everybody trying to make something other than what Federal makes? Why don't we make what they make? Only make it a little better. The boxes that they make, well, everybody knew them by their Federal box. Well, why don't we make a box similar to that, only with our logo? And that's what we did. The difference was we found out a long time ago that, you know, the flour that you use made a big difference. We went into purchasing a flour at the time, it was called producer flour. Well, in my industry, nobody uses producer flour to make a pretzel. It's too expensive. It's too good. Okay, it's too good. And we said, well, okay, it's too good, it's too much money, but maybe that's the little edge that we'll need to get us over the top. And believe it or not, it was. We used a better flour. We only have yeast, water, and flour in our product. It's an all-natural product, always was. And the product, because of the flour, held up longer, had a better taste. And now it was just a matter of, okay, now I make a product that looks like theirs, tastes better than theirs, holds up longer than theirs. Well, now it was the hard part, and that was to get it on the street and talk these vendors and people into switching over to us, which became a very, very difficult.